Hello there and welcome once again to the Open Door Show from Property CEO. Now, I'm normally here with the other half, Mr. Ian Child, but he's not here. No, it's unbelievable, isn't he? He's not here again. But look, I'm here and that's all that counts. It's great to have you with us, and over the next 30 minutes, because this is a new format of Open Door, we're doing these in 30 minutes rather than 45, and we're recording these. So you'll be listening to this now, and it is a recording. Of course, you could be listening to this in the day, you could be listening in the evening, early hours of the morning, or on an airplane listening to it on a podcast, because this is also available on a podcast for you. So hopefully you are going to enjoy this. It gives more flexibility for our guests, and a lot more flexibility for us, and hopefully a bit more flexibility for you, although of course you do lose out on it being live. So hopefully there's a balance there somewhere. It's great to have you with you, and we're going to take, as always, a deep dive into the world of small scale property development. That's what I meant to say, development. And as always, we'll be talking to movers, shakers, people in the industry, trying to give you that inside track. But above all, it's all about having a bit of fun. And even though we don't have a live audience, we will ask you to submit your questions in. If you are interested, pop onto our website. There is a link there. I can actually tell you the link. It's propertyceo.co.uk/open door questions. Have a look on there and you can see the list of future guests. Any questions you want, pop them in. So please join in as always. So today's guest, or tonight's guest, or the morning's guest, whenever you listen to this, is Derek Mason from Superstructure Associates. Derek, welcome back. How are you?
Thank you, Richie. I'm fine. We're very busy at the moment, which is good. There's lots of talk of doom and gloom out there, particularly in construction world. Well, at the moment, we're not seeing any of it, and we hope we don't. The worst time you can do to stop your marketing is, when you're busy, because then you end up in the cyclic thing of doing the work and then running away, doing marketing and doing the work. So keep on marketing while you're busy and you'll always stay busy. As you know, and some of the other guests will know, seen before, we are multi-award winning structural engineering consultancy. In July this year, we won 5 awards at the Richmond Business Awards, and we were the winners for Best Business for Innovation, which was one of our ones we really wanted to. And then about 2 weeks ago, we were told that we are one of 4 finalists nationally for Consultant of the Year for the Association of Consulting Engineers for the micro business, which is 10 staff or less. And the award ceremony for that is on the 3rd of November. So we're holding thumbs for that.
Wow. So the award for innovation, that's innovation in structures is what we're talking about, isn't it? It's not innovation in the business, it's what you do as an engineer.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Those that don't know, Derek and I used to work together in a previous life. Well, in fact, it was this life, but just in a previous business. Derek and I worked together. He now runs his own business, Superstructure Associates, and they are very, very good at what they do. One thing I always like about Derek's business and the feedback that we get from people that do use Derek is the attention to their clients. Derek will always make sure him and his team come back to you. So that's quite a rare quality in a lot of professionals, unfortunately, isn't it, Derek? Not all consultants are like that, are they?
No, I mean, often, people will phone us or send an email, and then when you phone back, the first thing they say is, "Oh, thank you for phoning me back. I've tried 5 others and I haven't heard anything." Wow. So it's, it's in some ways it helps us because we get our foot in the door quite easily then. Obviously, we're good at what we do and we like to make sure our clients' projects are successful. But the first thing is you've got to start speaking to them.
Yeah. I think that's a really good point. And it is just that communication. One thing we always talk about to our students is about building rapport and having that relationship. And people skills are the most important skills. And I always say, as a measure of those consultants, not just structural, any consultants, if they don't bring you back, how interested are they in your project, in your work? And if they do bring you back, then that's good news. Derek, just a bit about, you said, a lot of people talking about doom and gloom, but you're super busy. Do you see any signs of any downturn at the moment?
No, not at the moment. I mean, we are actually heading for our highest turnover in the 11 years that we've been in business by end of this month, which, and that's in a recession. So, we're obviously doing something right. And, we're just going to keep on doing what we're doing, keeping clients happy, making sure we respond and doing their projects, cost effectively and efficiently.
So you don't see a calling off in the marketplace for new developments?
No, not at the moment. I mean, some private clients, they would have had planning approved for a project, say, six months or a year ago. When they're now getting prices back, they are higher than expected. Some are going with it because they don't know what's happening, next year. It could be double, so some are doing it, some are holding fire to wait and see. But generally, most people just want to get it done now.
Derek, if I ask you about, and we've got some questions which we've picked up from some of our students, to say for future guests, please pop your questions in and we'll do our best to put them to our guests. But obviously I picked some questions up recently because I said that you were coming on, and Derek's been on the show here before. But Derek, in terms of material prices and things, obviously there's a lot of concern about pricing of projects. What do you say to that in terms of, I know you can offer like value engineering with the architect, with the mechanical electrical consultant, the cost, you can try and bring costs down. How can we sort of give new developers a bit of comfort that if they get into a project and the tenders come back over a price, what sort of thing can you do to try and bring it back in budget?
Well, we use very sophisticated analysis, which is called finite element analysis, and we do that in 3D, 3 dimensions. So we will optimize, for example, the amount of steel work that you use, in the sense that we will make sure there's enough there to do the job that it needs to do, but you're not going to have a beam that's twice the size you need. Now, there's certain factors that need to be considered, not just strength, but deflection and things like that. But we can look at different ways of doing things. If you've got a very long span, we might say to the client, I know it's not ideal, but we could put a column in a certain position, which reduces the span, so you reduce the beam size. And often we can hide that column in a wall, so it's not that obvious later on. We used to working with architects, and obviously architects don't like seeing columns in the middle of a room, nor do clients. And we don't like doing it. So we'll always try and see if we can do it without doing that. But sometimes if you've got to save costs, you can do it, but you can do it in a sort of clever and intelligent way. Then you sort of, achieving both goals, really, saving money, saving time, and still, making sure that the structure works effectively.
And so if the project comes back over budget, that's the sort of thing you can look down as a full team, sometimes with the contractor as well, and look at ways of still trying to deliver the end product that the client wants, but also trying to save money, yeah?
Yeah. I've been in the game long enough. There's not much I haven't seen, So I always can come up with something, some idea somewhere. Sometimes they're a bit off the scale, off the wall. But we've got a very simple rule: the only silly question is one you don't ask. So we'd far rather ask lots of questions to be able to understand the client's real, reason for doing this development. What are they really trying to achieve? Because sometimes we can alter the design to suit that, but yet still save money.
No, I think that's good. We as developers should always ask lots of questions. And if you're listening to this, or indeed you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you ask those questions. As Derek says, there's no stupid question apart from the one that you don't ask. And I think the fact that Derek's business has got an award for innovation in design, that's what it's about. It's about pushing the boundaries to get us as developers what we want. Derek, are you ready for a few questions that's been sent in?
Yeah, sure.
So we can chat around these and see how we go. I've got a question here from Robert. So, Robert, thanks for putting this to us. I say a few of these are people that we know that's picked up for future shows. Please pop your questions in. This is an interesting one, and I get asked this a few times, Derek, by some of our students on our main mentorship program. It says, how early, Robert says, how early in my project should I think about appointing a structural engineer? At what stage should we appoint a structural engineer, or maybe engage with a structural engineer?
Again, it depends what you're trying to do. If it's let's say a normal small development, I would say as soon as you've got planning, you know what you want to build, speak to a structural engineer then, before the architect goes too far down the line in doing building control drawings and things like that, because we may come up with something that could change something. So rather than pay twice to have it redone by the architect, speak to us first so we can give you our input and our ideas, maybe change the layout slightly, and then do your building control drawings and that. So you are saving time and money, really, because you'll be going along the same direction that you're actually going to build it, rather than us come in once you've got everything finished and then we say, oh, yeah, you can do this, you can do that. That changes that, and that would cause a delay and more cost.
What about coming in prior to that? Because you're talking about the structure could impact the design.
Yeah.
And obviously, if the architects put the planning permission in, or indeed if it was a permitted development right application through prior notification, would it not be better to get you to, at the very least, cast your eye over those planning drawings or permitted development drawings, just to make sure what we want to do as a developer can actually work, either as a new build, which could be more efficient, or particularly if it's conversion, we're not trying to knock walls down which can't be knocked down. So would it be beneficial to get you in earlier?
Yes, and we offer service to our clients to do that. I'm actually going to one this afternoon where the client has bought this house and he went to an architect. We work with a lot, and the architect said, no, actually, listen to what you're thinking of doing. Go speak to Derek. Get him to come look at the site first. Then he'll tell you what's structurally possible. We can then take that on board and then do a design for you that we know is actually buildable. Because sometimes architects can go off on a tangent and then do something wonderful, looks fantastic, but if you can't actually physically build it or make it stand up, it's not going to work. So, getting us in at that early point does help in some situations.
And are you quite happy for new developers to reach out and engage with you to talk about how you could work with them even before they've got a project, just to have that initial conversation?
Yes, we do. And we've actually done it with a few of your students already. They've come to our office, and, I quite like them coming to the office so they can meet the team, and they can, we can show them various projects. We can pull some up on the computer so they can see how we do our analysis and that. And that we found that gives them a lot of comfort, because they can actually see that, not only do we know what we're doing, but they can see the way we do it. Because a lot of this construction is all about relationships and confidence in your team and that, and will you get on? So at the end of the day, you're going to be working with these people for 6 months, a year plus. You kind of got to like them and get on with them at the end of the day, because, it's part of your team, and they're your professional team. They need to work together with you. So, we like them coming to the office, because that way that, they can see how we do it. I'm a bit of a warts and all kind of guy, like me or, either like me or hate me, but don't be lukewarm, No,
I think that's a good point. Do they get tea and biscuits if they come to you, or do they have to bring their own?
No, tea and biscuits, and if they really like, they might get cake.
Look at that. I tell you what, Derek, I might be up soon as well and pretend I want to commission you for a bit of development work. But no, let's seriously, folks, reach out. Derek, what an opportunity there. Not only tea and biscuits, but maybe a bit of cake as well. Can't resist that. But go there, because Derek said it's a people business. I love that when consultants say it's a people business, and Derek wants to show you what he does in his business. And I know for a lot of people listening or watching this, you're probably not totally familiar what a structural engineer does if this industry is completely new to you. I know we've got a lot of existing developers who are trying to do things better who are on our program, but those of you who are completely new, going to meet a structural engineer in their territory, in their environment, and the same for an architect, and meet Derek's team and let them talk through what they do. It just gives you a better understanding. I love that. Derek, I've got a question from Mike that Mike submitted in that he wants us to ask you. And I don't know how you answer this, we'll see, but it says, are there common mistakes that you see new developers make?
I think the first one is probably being too ambitious on their first project. Start small, okay. Learn to walk before you run. And being a multiple marathon runner, I'm talking from experience here. Start small. You can always go bigger later, but, pick up the lessons on smaller projects, because big projects are great. The problem is, if you make a mistake, it can cost you really big. Where on a smaller project, if you make some small mistakes and things, it doesn't cost you as much. Rather pay to learn on a smaller project, because once you've learned those lessons, you can often extrapolate them onto bigger projects. So, the rule I'd say is start smaller, get comfortable with smaller ones, and then work your way up the line.
Yeah. And is there anything else other than, okay, not going too big? The problem I've often seen, and most people will know if you don't, my background is I'm also a chartered structural engineer. So I used to practice, and say Derek and I used to work together. My often thing was that communication, that people didn't communicate with their team. And even, you said, Derek, warts and all, you'll tell people how it is. If they don't like it, that's how it is, because you need the truth. Do you see that communication thing can trip people up?
Oh, definitely, and I hate to say it, but, going too cheap on your professional team is definitely penny wise, pound foolish, because at the end of the day, you get what you pay for. A one-man band guy's doing a project from his back bedroom, just scribbling over architect's drawings. He'll give you something, but it's not really what you need. And if you're a developer starting out, you need someone to almost sort of hold your hand and guide you along and say, look, don't do that, because this is the problem. do it like this because that's what you'll get out of it. Someone like me that's been around the block more than a few times, I've seen it all, and I can prevent you from making mistakes, not all of them, obviously, but, I can forewarn you, being forewarned is forearmed. So it's about, using your professional team, their experience, their knowledge, and that'll help you make a better development, less mistakes and less costly.
Yeah, no, I think that's absolutely important. The cost of your professionals individually it's not insignificant, but it's not significant compared to the overall project and your profitability. So yeah, don't penny pinch on that. And the big ones I always found, Derek, I don't know how you price meetings, but we find a lot of new developers, certainly developments I've done, is I always like to say to the professionals, okay, can you allow for 3 meetings to site or 2 design meetings or whatever? And then I will pay you any extra meeting over that. I'll pay you 300 quid or 200 quid, whatever we want for half a day, full day, etc., whatever those numbers are. And that means then the consultants are very happy to keep coming out, and I know what I'm in for, and they're going to come out and have a look at the project. Is that the sort of thing you do on visits?
It's a standard clause in our fee quote. We will allow the first site visit to go and have a look, because I will not do a job without a site visit. So we do a site visit and then we'll go and do the project, but we've got a rate for site visits in our fee quote. So they know it's £450 for a site visit or whatever. So they know what that is up front, because in the beginning, when I first started out, I tried to include 4 or 5 site visits in my fee. The problem is I wasn't winning jobs because my fee was more expensive than other consultants. And then someone said to me, yeah, but you've put in 4 site visits. They've put in none. That's why they're cheaper than you. So, I learned from that way. But by having a rate in, it's clear up front, and I'm all about being clear up front, because I don't want people to have horrible surprises later, particularly with costs and fees. So they know what it costs. And the reverse of that is I'm not charging them for something I'm not doing. If I'd included 4 site visits and then I only did 2, well, hey ho, I've got money for jam. Well, I don't work like that. I rather give value and people know where they stand. So if they need 2 extra, fine, they know what it costs. If they don't need 2, well, they've saved that money.
I like it. Here's a question from Karen, just on a similar theme. Karen asked me to ask you this. I spoke to her a few weeks back and she said, can you ask Derek, and I think it's a similar question to any professional, but Derek, the one she wanted to ask you is, how can you tell if an engineer is going to be good or not?
That is an interesting question. I mean, the first thing obviously is look at their qualifications. If you're doing developments, you want to deal with a chartered engineer, because being chartered is your license to practice, so to speak, in the sense that it shows what you're doing. And basically it means, the authorities are putting the public safety in your hands, literally, because there's an old saying, if a surgeon makes a mistake, he could kill a patient, but if an engineer makes a mistake, he could kill thousands, particularly if a bridge or a major structure collapses. So, that's getting quite dramatic. But the lesson in that is look for people that have got the right qualifications, degrees, that they're chartered. To become chartered in this country with the Institute of Structural Engineers, you've got to sit a 7-hour exam, and the pass rate is about 32%, which is 1 in 3. So, and then those that fail have to go back and try again until they get it right. So it's quite a strict criteria to get that. It doesn't mean everyone that's chartered is the same, because it depends on your experience and your abilities and how your career has progressed. But start with the qualifications that they chartered, and then go look at their website, look at reviews. What are people out there saying about them? If you go to a website and they've got 1 review that's 10 years old, well, that sets the alarm bells ringing. If they've got plenty of reviews that say all the right things, and you can go through reviews and check that they're not fake, because there's certain ways that they'll be written and things like that. And obviously we don't believe in fake reviews, but I think we've got about 36 at the moment 5-star reviews, and we've by far got the most in our local area. And people
Derek,
phoning up comment on that.
Just to jump in terms of that fake review, and okay, no one's going to put up a bad review on their website, but would you be happy if a new client came to you and said, "Oh, I see you've got a review there from Mike Smith. could I speak to Mike Smith? Presumably, if Mike Smith was happy, you're happy to do that sort of thing.
Yeah, yes, we would. And I've probably had that request twice in the 11 years that we've been running superstructures. But, the clients have been happy enough to do a review. And in some ways, I encourage that because the client does the selling for me, Yeah. And we've had some clients say to someone, well, you'd be stupid not to go with Derek and his team because they were absolutely brilliant because of X, Y, and Z, and we've got a few advocates like that will actively promote us because they were so happy with what we did, and, unfortunately, we've had to pick up some projects from some people where other engineers haven't performed. But, we do that to just help the client out because at the end of the day, they made a bad choice or the engineer had some problems or something. But, we're there to help. We help try and solve the problem so they can get their rear extension or loft completed so it's safe so they can carry on with their lives.
Yeah, Karen, I like that question. I think, Karen, everything that Derek said there, absolutely perfect. But just to refresh our memories on a few things Derek said at the beginning of this Open Door show. Yeah, he's been shortlisted for an award. Now, I don't know what the shortlisting process is for that, but it's not going to be a walk in the park. There's a fair bit of information there to put in. Someone's probably got to second that. Someone's got to support that. Even if you don't win, you've got to be put forward. So get on a shortlist. Derek, where was this shortlist? I think you're one of how many and across what geographical area?
Well, it's national, the whole of the UK.
Whole of the UK. And you're one of how many?
4.
So, Karen, what I would say, if you've got a consultant that's one of 4 shortlisted across the whole of the UK, now you might say, well, some consultants, and that's fair enough, don't go in for these things, don't want to spend the time. I would be looking at there, though, Karen, if I've got a consultant that is so interested in his or her own business that they are prepared to put their own time in, because I'm pretty certain, Derek, to go in for that award, probably spent you and your team putting a submission in outside of normal hours. Probably, would that be correct?
Yeah. And it's, sometimes you're talking days, to put it together. It's not a 5-minute job.
So Mrs. Mason wouldn't have been that happy, but you still did it.
Yes.
Yes, he says, rather cautiously, in case Mrs. Mason is listening. And if you are, then welcome to the Open Door Show. And Derek apologizes profusely for spending that amount of time on the submission. But the fact is, Karen, the fact that Derek and his team wanted to do that, what does that tell you? It tells you they're passionate about their business. And if they're passionate about their business, they're probably passionate about everything about their business, which is also their clients. And again, goes back as well to something that we said earlier in the show. Derek was talking about ringing people back. And that, I think, is the, if they're qualified, Derek said, it takes you a long time. There's an exam, 30% pass. I passed it. Amazing, isn't it? But, if they pass that, they put their 8 or 9 years of study in and they're qualified, that's that ticket. But are they any good or not? I would say it's how they respond and how their other clients perceive them or not perceive them. And I think just final comment on that, Karen, is have they done the right sort of work that you're doing? Now, Derek, I think, does cross-sectional work. I mean, we can see on Derek's banners behind him, if you're listening to this on a podcast, Derek talks about basements on there and temporary works. I know from an engineering perspective, 2 very complex engineering processes, which tells me immediately there's engineers with competence here. But if you wanted to have an engineer to design a basement or temporary works that's never done it, probably not going to have much experience and probably not the right sort of people. Would you agree with that, Derek?
Yes, unfortunately, to get experience, you always got to have a first project. Fortunately, I did my first basement and temporary works a very long time ago. But, experience builds on experience. And, for your professional indemnity insurance, they look at that, how many basements have you done in the last X number of years? And we've done over 20 basements in the last 6 years. So, that tells us that, tells people we know what we're doing, and likewise temporary works. It's a section of engineering that a lot of engineers shy away from because they're scared of it. They don't understand it. But again, we've got lots of experience in it. And, like all our projects we do properly, thoroughly. And every project we do, we have another engineer in the company check the other engineers' work. It's not that we don't trust our engineers. It's just that it gives everyone that extra bit of confidence that everything's right, that mistakes have been picked up. And we formalize that now because we've now got triple ISO certification 2 years ago. And we get that checked every year. We get audited every year for that, it's very unusual for a practice our size to really have that, but we just did that to give our clients and our future clients more confidence that, we know what we do, the quality is done, it's checked, and everything else. It's just another tick in the box to give clients that extra confidence to go with us.
I like it. Derek, I've got two questions. I'm going to combine these two because they got sent in prior to this show as well. Lizzie put a question in. She said, my question is, what's the best way to control a project to make sure it's finished on time and within the original budget? It seems that contractors always run late and end up costing more. And there's another one which is more design stage related, but I'm going to put these two together. Harjinder says, can Derek explain the difference of how he will be involved in the project? Is it like the RIBA stages where you go through one stage at a time? So I thought I'd just include those two because obviously we have RIBA stages and other processes that we can work to in the industry which control the upfront stuff. And could you just perhaps briefly give us a comment of how you interact with the architect through these stages and the gateways? And then perhaps the second part, which was Lizzie's question, what's the best way to control a project with a contractor on site?
Okay, so regarding the RIBA stages, we will work with the architect, and we generally only sort of come in at sort of stage 2 or 3 because the architect does the work up front and he gets planning, and it's only really once they get planning that we normally get involved. And then we'll take the architect's drawings and we will work out the structure, and we'll often have conversations with the architect to check a few things if we want to try and improve things or change something. And then we'll do our drawings, our design and drawings, and then we send that to the architect and to the client for their comment, just to make sure that we've understood their brief properly and that they don't want anything changed. And then when they're happy with that, then we'll go and do the final bit, which is the connection design and drawings, which again is something we as engineers do, where a lot of other engineering practices don't do, is the steel connections, design and drawings. Again, we're just trying to make everything as complete as possible. So when they go to tender, the contractor can see the type of connections, he can see their design, their drawing, so he prices for that. Because if they're not shown, he will make an assumption. And what often happens is he makes an assumption that, they'll just be very simple, cheap connections, etc. And that may not be what's required for that project. And then, of course, when it comes out, then you'll go back to the client and say, that's going to cost you another 10 grand for those connections because I thought they were simple connections, but they're not. They're full moment connections. Being a builder, he shouldn't be expected to understand in this situation, you need a moment connection, that situation you don't, because that's not his skill set. So it's about providing as much complete information as possible. So when it goes to tender, you get the right tender price for what's going to be built. So that covers the stages. And then controlling, working on site, and that is, we are always available if there's issues on site, because sometimes they can open up something on site and then it'll be different to what everyone thought. So we'd often then go to site for a site visit, look at what the situation is and see how do we need to alter the structure to fit what's on the site, because sometimes, you could expect a wall to be a certain thing and then it's not, or, things change, that's part of construction, there's one guarantee is that things will change. But, we work with people and we do react quickly, so I've got 4 engineers that work with me. So we've got the capacity to react quickly. And that's another thing our clients like, they'll phone us up and say, we've got this problem. A lot of our other engineers would take a week or 2 to get there, and we often are there within a day or 2. And it's all about saving time, because time is money once you've got a builder on site. So it's about reacting quickly, getting the right information, and then we turn that around quickly, often within 24 hours, depending on what the situation is. It's all about saving the contractor time, which eventually saves the client money.
Brilliant, thank you. Harjinder, hopefully that's answered your question about the RIBA stages. Lizzie, a little bit how Derek will respond and keep your contractor on track. The fundamental thing though, Lizzie, as well, is you want a really good project manager that's going to control that contractor contractually and daily in the project. Derek, I've got one final question. I just want a yes or no on this because we're running out of time for the show, but Michael put this one in. I'd like to get Michael an answer for Michael. Michael says, if we came to you first for a project, would you know some good architects that you could introduce us to, as we are struggling to find someone who is innovative? Derek, do you know any innovative architects you could introduce new developers to?
Yes, definitely.
Yes, definitely. There you go, Michael. I knew he would. It wouldn't be a problem at all. Derek, thank you for being on the show. Contact details. Obviously, some people are listening to this podcast. We will put it up. You can see Derek's details will come up at the bottom of the screen and in the show notes. But those that listen to the podcast, obviously, there'll be in the details on the show notes going to YouTube. But if you want to write it down now, Derek, what's your contact details?
Well, I think the easiest way is just to look up Superstructures Associates on Google, and we'll pop up. You'll see our website. All the contact details are on there. But if you want our office phone number, it's 020-8102-7974. Otherwise, you can email info, which is info at ssaceltd.co.uk.
So the easiest way, touch with you. Superstructure Associates, look them up. The website's out there. At least they give you a chance to see what they're about. And by all means, reach out to them. And one of the Derek's team, or Derek even himself, might well come back to you, and he can try and help you out. Derek, thank you for coming on the show. Been a bit of fun, hasn't it?
Yeah, great. I always enjoy these. Thanks very much for inviting me.
Good stuff. Derek, thank you very much. Hopefully you've enjoyed that. Obviously, if you have, just let us know. It's always useful to get a bit of feedback. So put it out on Facebook, social media. If you've enjoyed the Open Door Show, link it up to other people. Future shows will be coming up. Lots of guests coming on. Some guests you've been used to in the past. People like Derek, we get them back again. Other new guests coming on. We've got some great auctioneers and project managers and all sorts coming on. So please look out for future editions of Open Door, not only on podcasts, but also on YouTube. So they'll be on Spotify, the normal podcast channels. If you are interested, you want to get into development and you want to come along and spend a bit of time with myself and my business partner, Ian Child, who obviously couldn't be bothered to make it for today's show. But look, hey, come and join us if you want. propertyceo.co.uk/SFR. SFR, six-figure roadmap, is a free sort of 2 or 3 hour training. Come and join us on that. And we talk all about property development. I'll put a link below here in the show notes as well. propertyceo.co.uk/SFR. And as I say, /open door questions. If you want to pop on the website and look for future shows and any other questions that you want to ask future people that are coming up. Thank you for listening, wherever you are, whatever time of day it is, whatever country you're in. Hopefully you've enjoyed it, and we look forward to seeing you on the next edition of the Open Door Show. Thanks very much now. Bye-bye.